Welcome to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Congregation on this beautiful morning. My name is Holly Cook, and I'm honored to serve as your worship associate this morning. Our congregation is one of inclusion and respect. We accept all people as they are, growing toward who they might become. We believe that our becoming happens better in community, and we welcome all those who hunger for a spiritual home of acceptance and love. Our minister, Reverend Tamara Casanova Suzuki, is enjoying some time away with her family this week. Reverend Tamara will be in the pulpit again next week with our Director of Religious Education, Tracy Goforth, to present the RE Sunday and Youth Bridging service. This morning, my heart is filled with joy because we have the wonderful opportunity to hear our beloved Live Oak poet-in-residence, Lisl Auf der Heide, share her gifts. Lisl has curated a collection of her poems that she will be reading for us today. Lisl was first inspired to write poetry when she was just a young girl of 8 years old in her hometown of Vienna, Austria. Thankfully, she honed her craft throughout the years, published a number of books of her own poetry, contributed to many more, as well as inspired and instructed other budding poets to develop their voices. I love to learn how people found their way to Unitarian Universalism, as the majority of us came from other religious traditions or no tradition at all. Lisl was born and raised Catholic, after which she became unchurched. She chose to become a Quaker when her young daughter asked to attend Sunday school, like the other children. Lisl became a UU due to, in her words, a happy accident. The accident was when Lisl just happened to see an employment ad for a part-time director of Unicare for the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. I love that job title. It's akin to what our pastoral care associates do for us here at Live Oak. Lisl landed the job and then figured it would probably be helpful to find out more about Unitarian Universalism by attending Sunday services. Sounds like a good idea. Later, as retirement grew near, Lisl and her husband Ralph moved west to Goleta, and she began attending Live Oak. I, for one, am very happy for that happy accident. I also want to mention that the engaging paintings that you will see in today's slide presentation are the creation of Lisl's husband of 67 years, Ralph Auf der Heide. And another thing that you'll want to know is that after service today, Lisl will be signing books, right? We're going to have a book signing booth right outside, so stop by and admire the creations that Lisl has created and get her to sign your book for you. I just want you to be well aware that we are in for a treat today, so prepared to have your heart touched. In Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world, people light a flaming chalice as the symbol of our faith and the covenant we hold with one another. It represents the warmth of community, the light of hope, and the fire of justice. Please join together in reading the words for the chalice lighting that are printed on the screens and in your order of service. And please know that these words were written by Lisl Auf der Heide. Out of the dark mother, the silent ice-bound earth, comes this green, tender thing, and grows and glows, bursts into flower, and is light. Barbara, she offered creative writing workshops called How to Catch a Poem. Our opening words today are excerpts from Lisl's curriculum. In her words, you will hear abundant encouragement and inspiration. It's easy to observe that her advice can serve equally well for creative writing as it can for nearly any aspect of a life well lived. Here is some of Lisl's advice to her students. What we shall attempt during our class is to once again become as little children, to forget that we can't write, and to approach the task with whatever means you do have. We will surprise ourselves, I promise you, by finding out how much we can do and say and know. Each of us has many voices. If we can allow some of our repressed ones to speak, we may be delighted, excited, shocked, at the very least surprised. And in writing and sharing, we shall learn to know some things about ourselves and about each other on levels we seldom touch. We are here to enjoy the process, not to strive for a perfect product. We can appreciate the product however it turns out, and you need not worry about yours being more perfect than in someone else's, because in its own context and its own being, it is perfect. We shall not attempt to build castles or to become great poets, but we will go beyond the wishing to the doing, the process, which is the most important. Most of us who try our hand at poetry are happy if we are able to reach a few, or even if we are able to get in touch only with our own inner selves. The technique is simple. Don't try to write a poem. Close your eyes, be very still, listen inward, and catch the poem as it falls into your hand.
It's no surprise probably that this morning's meditation words are a poem by Lisl. So get yourselves comfortable. I'll read the poem and then we can meditate for a few moments afterwards and then sing. I've forgotten what the song is, but this poem by Lisl is entitled Enchanted. I am enchanted. My dreams are not my own. I follow roads I did not know before, and enter houses where no echo sounds, and every key fits into every door. From cellar's hollow well to dust-dulled attic's webs, I'm driven to pursue a face, crashing past mirrors, into rooms behind them, and colder darkness, and unpeopled space. Then I remember, I can walk through walls. I need not be endungeoned, not alone, for I can fly and leap from precipices and conjure morning glories out of stone.
Morning. For a while there, it seemed that fate didn't really want me to do this. On top of all my troubles that have kept me from coming, 2 days ago, I managed to fall on my head. And it was really thanks to Lisl Adar, who happened to have been scheduled to give me a massage within half an hour of this fall, that just really did miracles. I tell you, if you have problems, she's the one. The title of this, Each of Us a Child of the Universe. Each of us is a child of the universe. Yet I'm willing to bet not one of us can describe our mother, that incredibly versatile, ever-expanding, mysterious mother who connects us all. Birds and bugs, trees and stones, fish and seaweed, elephants and puppies. She set us on this enormous seeming, but actually minuscule planet where she said we could live rent-free as long as we keep it tidy and don't allow vandalism. In various ways and multiple tongues, she bade us to love each other and to care for the other beings she brought forth. But like any kindergartner in a room full of toys, we assumed they were there for the sole purpose of our enjoyment, to be played with, explored, discarded. Fortunately, kindergarten leads to elementary and then high school and for many, university. There, at last, we may learn to look at our mother, to begin the process of trying to understand what seemed too mysterious to grasp, to realize the enormity of tasks, along with the enormity of satisfaction that comes with tasks accomplished. Some of us are given the job of describing the tasks, some of us to question them, still others to carry them out and to improve them. Inventors and architects, engineers and scientists, cooks and gardeners, artists and philosophers, singers and poets. I remember clearly the moment I began my journey of finding a way to deal with a mystery. It was when Father Herman, in catechism class, told us about eternity. My 6-year-old brain grappled with a concept my 94-year-old brain still grapples with. And poetry was the tool it chose and still uses. Innumerable descriptions of what poetry is have been written through the ages, from Plato, 427 BC to 347 BC. Poetry comes nearer to vital truth than history. To read a dove, contemporary, poetry is language at its most distilled and powerful. It's interesting that in today's Los Angeles Times, Rita Dove is featured in the books and art part. Today I share with you some of my attempts at describing how I see the universe and its inhabitants, as well as my small place in it. I have to admit I chose the title of this talk partly because it would allow for such a wide range of subjects. After all, what is bigger than the universe? And partly because it would allow me to read from my book, Child of the Universe. Some of you may know that I have been quite ill, but never so ill that I could not write a poem. So I will start by sharing one I wrote most recently, and it's called Staying Alive. Sometimes the body seems a battlefield shrouded in thick fog, soldiers stirring in dark corridors, weapons aimed at unseen enemies, just as blinded, just as uncertain. Beneath this fortress of skin and flesh, hidden deep in unvented tunnels, the war never sleeps. Anguish and injury slow down only long enough for a ceasefire, soon rescinded. When heart sounds again become the most strident rhythm, and air expands lungs, panicked into cavities of despair, blood flows once more, a crimson stream, through arteries, surges into eyes, ears, and limbs, allows the mitigating music to create inner peace. And this is another one I wrote quite recently, and it's called The First Foot. When the first foot crept from the sea to touch the first shore, and the first eye opened to the first light, we were forever connected. Each morning, when we shed night's comfort, when windows open into sunshine or rain, when limbs loosen and eyes unlid, we reenact that connection. And as we listen to sounds of wind or sounds of drops dripping from trees, memories of that first encounter linger, lead us through a day gray as the looming clouds or drenched in sun, but always irrevocably bound to the sea and the shore. And this one is the one that the book Child of the Universe got its title. I am a child of the universe. I am a child of the universe, belong to no clan, call no earthly acre home. As I dance across the Milky Way, I leave no footprints in the shining dust. From star to star, I glide on beams of light with the speed of dreams. Touching the blazing orb of the sun does not sear my hand. And at night, I rock myself to sleep in the waning arms of the moon's cool curve. When morning finds me gravity-bound, pouring tea, I wink at the planets. They know. And here is one about one of our most famous inhabitants of this planet, and I call it All Things Are Relative. Einstein wanted to know about time and space and the order of stars. He trusted a creator who left nothing to chance and who was waiting patiently for someone with whom he could collaborate. No ordinary endeavors held Albert's interest, but light curving, planets turning, sent his pen into orbit. One small man with gigantic curiosity unlocked the universe. Here's somebody else famous for something else, Andy Warhol. He painted Campbell's Soup cans because they were there. Do not look for soup inside them. What you see is exactly what you get. Yet beneath his stern tuxedo, Andy wears blue jeans. And this is about one of the most moving experiences, I think, in my whole life. Excuse me, my voice is a little scratchy. In the company of ghosts. I have been in the company of ghosts only once, in a house a window wide, in the city of Amsterdam, Holland. My husband and I buy tickets inside the narrow hallway and begin to ascend the steep stairs, our steps eerily loud on the ancient wood. We're the only visitors. Up and up 3 flights to the attic, where Anne Frank and her family whispered and tiptoed, learned to breathe softly, learned to smother coughs and sneezes, cries and laughter, learned to create a tiny world, safe and silent, within a world wild with war. Here, Anne's scarred desk, where she writes in her diary. There, her chipped cup that warmed stiff fingers on cold winter nights. This the bed where she dreams of shouting to the moon. There the chair where she reads and studies, knits and sews. I cannot see her slender shape, but something just moved before I have time to turn my head. Her voice is stilled, but her presence is a breath I sense on my skin. We descend slowly, without speaking, our kinship tugging more powerful and more painful than our own child's hand. Some of the inhabitants of this planet are writers. Writers shape worlds within worlds, paint scenery green or stark white, rainbow them with weather, shout thunder into newly carved mountains. They mold bones, cover them with flesh, decide the color of skin and hair and eyes, and the timbre of voices that will echo in rooms yet to be envisioned, blow souls into beings created by their pens. With the wonder of words, the writer assembles the characters and watches from the wings as they overflow the pages, turn from puppets to persons who ad-lib lines, laugh, weep, dance, become heroes or villains, forget to give credit to their creator. This one is called arachnophilia, as opposed to arachnophobia. Outside my window, trees stand sturdy year after year, their trunks anchored in earth, their branches reaching high. But what I wait to see are those seemingly slight threads spun in less than a day, invisible in shadow, gleaming like the silk they are when sun strikes them, with the spider precariously balanced in the center. Early morning dew pearls on each segment. They dance to wind's music, hum final lullabies to the spider's victims. In midday's heat and midnight's chill, in lightning and thunder, in the soft ebbing of day, the web is tried and tested, torn and repaired, and finally destroyed. I mourn its demise, but I also know the spider still lives in my garden and will spin again and again and again. This one is called a Horsetail, and it's in the book Child of the Universe. A horse climbs the hill into brown grasses taller than he, hoofs spraying over parched earth, beetles and dust and salvos of seed. Some feather-winged drift with the wind, some dropped wait for weather or a bird. Others cling to the horse, which carries them unknowing, uncaring. A gray horse cantering over an autumn hill could at any moment burst into bloom. And this is also in Child of the Universe. Some other little residents of the planet, and I call it Snails Celebrate Rain, as I would if I got some. Snails celebrate rain, slither like smooth brown pebbles, scale walls, peer into windows pasted to the glass. They feast on new leaves, scalloped lettuce and cabbage, mate shamelessly in the middle of the patio. In disorderly clusters they invade my garden, creep up trees, dangle from limbs next to raindrops, sing their soft snail hymns in praise of rain. You tired yet? Wait, maybe I'll have a little more water. I like this one. When I write a poem, it's sort of like giving birth to a child. It's on its own, so I'm okay. I'm allowed to like it. This one's called Rondo Allegro, and it's in Child of the Universe. Toward the end of the third movement of the Bach concerto in B-flat major, the fly landed on my knee. Responding perhaps to the cello's mellow tones, he delicately rubbed his forefeet together, moved his head in rhythm to the music, and danced onto my neighbor's well-groomed shoulder, from whence he nodded earnestly at the concert bill. A burst of applause sent him into frenzied flight, but he returned to stroke his wings in time to Rossini's sonata as he waltzed along my thigh, drunk with delight. When last seen, he was soaring, his tiny hum quite lost among the violins, straight toward the conductor. This one I wrote fairly recently also. Titans. Even at the age of 5, I loved the forest, listened to trees cry, folded my small sorrows into their enormous symphony. Trees are the titans of the planet, roots anchored in earth. Their leafy arms weave into the sky. Their branches grow nuts and fruit, bear nests of birds and squirrels, sing in mornings, sigh out eves. Their crowns signal storms. Lightning seeks them out. Snow bends them. Ice turns them into stony skeletons. Spring sends warm sap into their lifeless limbs. Sun kisses green into their feeble fingers. Bees sip from lips of their blossoms. Days grow longer. Nights are short and mild. As summer swells fruit, adds another ring to the calendar of their years. It reminds me of looking at so many trees lately that I was sure were dead, and they're coming back to life with just a little rain. Oxalis. In March, my garden breaks into shards of gold as Oxalis, unbidden and untended, spreads its butter colors over lawn and patio, framed by Irish garlands of tri-petaled leaves. All through spring it flourishes, enveloping the timid pansy and the hidden violet. When summer ripens and other flowers rise, Oxalis disappears as if erased, to hibernate until next season. I have annual battles with my gardener about Oxalis. Leave it alone. Well, this one is just sort of a fun one that I think may resonate with a few of us. I call it Words Fail Me. More and more often now, as the years have gone by, something has shifted, though I still feel quite spry. Words, when I need them, are just out of reach, especially onerous when giving a speech. It is then that I search as fast as I can. If I were a computer, it would be called scan, the most precious of resources, which will help me to find the little thesaurus deep in my mind. The word may not be exactly the same, and frankly at times sound just a tad lame, but whenever there's one too hard to obtain, I consult the thesaurus that hides in my brain. So when it comes your turn to be of that age, supposedly wise, articulate, sage, when words seem to fail you, don't give in to dread. Just know there's a thesaurus alive in your head. And I'll leave you with one that some of you may have heard before. It's called chocolate. At the end of the day, chocolate, a square piece of bittersweet to melt on the tongue, coat each tooth with dark desire, seep around wide-awake taste buds, dissolve slowly, disappear. It isn't enough. One more. Separate each morsel into its tantalizing components. Push them together against the porous receptors of cheek and gum. Feel the flow, a smooth chocolate stream down the throat toward the stomach. But it isn't enough. Just one more. Thank you.